Well, as you mentioned, I was playing soccer. Something I've been doing since I was 5, and I love doing it. But anyways, during that game, I was running across the ball from one of my teammates, and he decided to clear the ball. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to me, he cleared it in my direction, and that hit me in the side of the head. So it was about right here, just between the temple and my eye.
Oh.
And I did not see it coming. It took me completely by surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So I hit the ground after the ball hit me, and I was still awake. I was still conscious. I moved to the play stopped, and I went to the side to the sidelines. From there, I basically realized that I couldn't see out of my right eye. It was completely blocked. I had no peripheral vision on that side. My left eye was fine, but I couldn't see. So I stayed off the pitch for a while, and
Wow.
slowly my vision returned.
How long did it take for your vision to return?
Probably 10-20 minutes, give or take.
How did you feel?
I was a little scared because, my
Yeah.
eye was not working. It was a little scary, but it was slowly getting better. It didn't get better quickly, but it slowly got better. I eventually, we were playing our game, and we were short players, so eventually being the athlete and soccer lover that I am, I went back out on the field to do quick shifts and basically give some of our guys a 5-minute rest so they could get back out there and do the heavy lifting. I was just out there basically being a pylon.
Yeah.
But like I said, my vision did return, but eventually I felt that I probably shouldn't be playing, so I stayed off the rest of the game.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And directly after the game, I felt okay. It didn't have a headache or anything. My eyesight was good.
Good.
And so I felt I could drive home. So
Mm-hmm.
I did. I drove home, and about halfway home, I started getting a headache. It was not a very intense headache or anything, but it was definitely an ache, and it was definitely noticeable and different from what it had been before I started driving.
Yeah, okay. So, you felt perfectly all right.
Up till then, yeah.
Up till then, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I guess I think this game was on the weekend, and I went to work on Monday. Still had the headache. I kind of felt that it affected my concentration and my ability to do what I was doing. But I didn't really know of anything else to do, so I just kept going with it. And it never went away. The ache never really moved in terms of the intensity. It was always just kind of there, but it persisted for several weeks before I realized and basically accepted that this was a problem and I needed to do something about it.
Okay, so when did you call me then?
Like I said, it would have been a couple weeks after it actually happened.
Oh, okay.
So, and that whole time the headache was there, and it didn't subside or anything.
Yeah, okay. So what other symptoms did you have?
Basically anything associated with having headaches, so sometimes difficulty in concentration, sometimes just watching. I didn't often get dizzy spells.
Yeah.
I don't often get dizzy spells, but there was a few times where I did get them, watching TV or something like that. Talking with some of my friends just to see if they noticed the change in my demeanor or even my cognitive abilities. They didn't say that there was any change there, so I took that as a good sign, and probably delayed me from doing anything.
Okay.
But in the end, after a few weeks, the pain was still there, and I couldn't get rid of it. So.
I think at that point, when you did call me, you told me that you're having trouble sleeping. You were waking up in the middle of the night, and also by that time you were feeling nauseous. And nausea is something that that never happens with you.
No, it's very rare. I have a pretty strong stomach. Even going on cruises and things like that, like that doesn't bug me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, having nausea was weird, and definitely is something that I wanted to get rid of.
Yeah, okay, because I kind of recall when you called me that it had reached a certain fever pitch by that point, and you knew that there's something definitely wrong. I kind of recall that. You see, the issue here is that Nolan is my son, and well, if we go back a couple of years to when Sidney Crosby had his concussion, and I was listening to, you know, all the news that was about it. At first, I didn't really pay attention to it, but as it became clear that Sidney was suffering, quite obviously, that's when I started to think, wow, you know, I really wish that I could get hold of him myself and try to help him, because there are certain things that in Chinese medicine that we can do that modern medicine cannot. And it's very obvious in this case because Sidney Crosby, after 2 years now, is still not sure about where he's going to be, about whether he's going to stay symptom-free. Currently he seems to be doing fine, but still it's taken 2 years, 2 whole years. And so while I was listening to the news over these past 2 years, and I was thinking, gosh, you know, I wish I could show people what can be done. The last thing I expected was for my own son, Nolan, to call me up and tell me that he had this problem. And I told him, okay, come on over and we're going to go through the entire 2-hour intake analysis that I do with everybody else, because certain things had to be done, and the only way to know how to do them exactly is to get a very thorough analysis of the situation. But what's important here is that I knew something about what Nolan was already going through, and he was having some difficulties at work, not with the company that he was with, but with a particular person that he was working with. And at the time, he didn't know what he was going to do about it. And understanding about where he was hit in that particular area above the ear indicated to me some of the things that Chinese psychology has taught me. And I'll use some jargon here, but the thing is that there are meridians that run here from the head to the feet. And it just happens to be called a gallbladder meridian. And the gallbladder is affected by indecision and by courage, or lack of courage. So it was very important to get to the bottom of this, because it all stemmed to his indecision about what he wanted to do with his future. I mean, he loves the company that he works for. He didn't want to leave it. So it really came down to not just treating him with acupuncture and choosing the correct points, but to work on teaching him something that was very important, because I didn't want him to repeat the same mistakes that his mother made in corporate life, and that was not dealing with bosses that we don't like. So I wanted him to learn early on in his career how to deal with this. So, do you remember what happened? Do you remember what I taught you?
Well, basically it was a different way of, well, I guess the first thing was getting me to admit that there was a problem. That was the first thing. It was definitely not something that I wanted to think about, not something I wanted to talk about. I just sort of wanted to just shove it under the rug and just leave it. But once you established that there was a connection between my headache and it not going away, and the fact that I didn't want anything to do with this particular person, it made it a lot easier. Like, that first step sort of put me on the path of getting better, and once I realized, okay, once I made a plan of action and started working on it, it relieved a lot of stress, and it relieved a lot of the pent-up emotions, I guess, that were there.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, for you to sit here and talk about it this way takes a lot of courage, too, because he didn't tell me this while we were working, so thank you very much for talking about this now. So what happened in the end?
In terms of...
Well, your injury and...
well, after we talked about this and did some acupuncture and whatnot, generally after the acupuncture sessions I would leave symptom-free, generally. It would last anywhere between an hour to a couple days, depending on, well, I guess it started out lasting only for about an hour, and then as we did more of them, the delay between it being fine and the symptoms coming back would be longer and longer. So eventually they didn't come back.
How long did that process take? Because when were you injured?
It would have been that's a good question. It was summer, so...
It was late?
Yeah, it was probably season. July, August type thing.
I think it was August.
Yeah.
Because it was towards the end of the season, as I recall. And now you're back playing indoor.
Yep. And
that started in November?
Yep.
Yeah. So when were you symptom-free?
Well, there's about a month, give or take, before I actually called you. And then probably another month after that before things calmed down and were back to normal, I guess.
Okay, so what do you think? Like October?
Yeah.
Yeah, so October. So late August to October. So really a matter of months, not 2 years. And I even showed Nolan how to think so that this would not happen to him again, because it doesn't have to ever happen to you again. So that's the other thing, because people get concussions over and over again, they wonder why. So there's a way towards preventing them as well. Okay, so what else would you like to say about the treatments that you received? And, well, actually, what I'd like to know is, since you did stay in a job, you didn't leave the company that you loved working for so much, what happened in the end?
Well, that particular person got dismissed and is no longer with the company. This happened rather recently, actually.
Yeah, which is good news, isn't it?
It was a good day for me.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, by dealing with your problems, and we're talking about Chinese psychology here, it really is about dealing with your problems, because the concussion is not just about a knock on the head. There's a reason why it's happened. And in Chinese medicine, regardless of where you got knocked around your head, we can tell you in general terms what you might be feeling. But until we actually meet with you, we can't help you with the precise issues that you're dealing with, and that's where the teaching and the coaching come in. But I think Nolan has learned a very valuable lesson that he'll have for the rest of his life, and that is that things don't happen by accident. Even when you don't expect it, especially when you don't expect it, nothing is ever an accident. There's always a very precise reason why things happen to you.